Lifology is the only Guinness World Record holders in the arena of career guidance. We help students to reach the right career options where they find purpose in life. Our development center is based in Trivandrum, Dr. Tharoor's constituency. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this evening for this exclusive masterclass. During this lockdown period, this is a humble initiative from ourselves to make sure that the bright minds of India share their views on education, career, life, and lifology. This masterclass is available exclusively for the students of Lifology. 1,200 students who registered for our summer program in our e-learning platform, and a handful of exclusive registrants who watch this through our Zoom conference. Today, to do the inaugural lecture of this program and talk about the soft power and its relevance in the post-COVID world, we have Dr. Shashi Tharoor with us, a person who does not need any introduction, politician, diplomat, international relationship expert, author, orator, academician. Dr. Tharoor, sir, the entire Lifology family and the audience of Lifology is really proud to host you over here. Sir, welcome to this session. Thank you very much on behalf of Lifology family for joining us today. And we are waiting to hear from you on the topic for next 30 minutes, soft power and the post-COVID world. Over to you, Shashi Tharoor, sir. Sir, please.
Thanks very much. Well, look, I'm not really going to prepare a speech as such. I'm sure that people are likely to have questions and comments as well. I'll just make a few initial comments, if I may, and then we can certainly talk in terms of what's on people's minds. I think that the issue of soft power is often not entirely understood. I take some credit for having brought the term very strongly into our public discourse, which is that it becomes very important for people to realize that it doesn't mean that you are not capable of being tough or hard. It simply means that your biggest asset is not your military might or muscle or your economic prosperity. It is, in fact, your capacity to attract others through your culture, through your behavior, through your values. That's what soft power boils down to. So since the idea of power is the ability to get people to do what you want to do, there are only two ways you can do it, either through hard power, by hitting them with a stick and forcing them, bullying them, intimidating them, using your threats and your strength to get them to do what you want to do, or you can give them inducements. So if one is sticks, the other would be carrots. You can give them money, you can give them development assistance and say, now you help you vote for us at the UN because we gave you all this money. But there is a third way, and the third way is the way of soft power, which is the way of attraction. You can actually economize on the sticks and the carrots if you actually just the kind of society they want to emulate. And that, frankly, is what this whole exercise is all about, of soft power. Soft power is through your cultural products and the attraction that people actually feel for you. It can, for example, vary from, in the case of India, the great attraction of our film industry, Bollywood, our shows. It could be our yoga, which is being practiced with great enthusiasm pretty much in every country on the earth. It could be Indian cuisine. Indian restaurants are proliferating around the world. It could be Indian fashions as more and more celebrities wear Indian designers. That again enhances India's image. All different examples of the kinds of things we do. So they're not all government propaganda. On the contrary, government propaganda doesn't usually give you soft power. Some soft power generated by governments, but most soft power is generated despite governments. It is the products of cultures being themselves and the rest of the world seeing what kind of country you are. So whereas hard power is exercised, soft power is evoked. And soft power is evoked in the sense that people hear the name of your country and they say, oh, this is the country. So you hear the name India, you think, oh, Mahatma Gandhi, you think democracy, you think yoga, you think chicken tikka masala, whatever, you think tandoori. Whatever it may be that you associate with it as a foreigner, those are the associations they have with India. And there was a time when India didn't have much soft power because the public imagination about India was actually about, shall we say, uh, poverty-stricken people with begging bowls, bony limbs, or naked fakirs lying on beds of nails, or snake charmers with snakes climbing up. You know, this is the kind of image we had. At best, there were the caparisoned elephants and the Maharajas on top, but that too wasn't particularly realistic. And so we've come a long way from them. And even things like the fact that every Indian in the West today is assumed to be either a doctor or a software engineer is a sign of our soft power, that we're seen as having achieved excellence in those two fields, and therefore we're automatically associated with that. Now, one of the important aspects of soft power is the kind of culture we have, and not just the kind of culture we have, but the way in which that culture manifests itself. So India, for example, as a democracy, and a very diverse democracy with a wide range of people of every religion, every kind of background, language, culture, all living closely together and working together, that gave India a very, very good image in other countries in the world. So that, for example, if you look at religious coexistence, I was traveling at the United Nations when I was working at the UN at that time. I have to say that, are you able to see me and hear me clearly? Because for some reason I'm not able to see myself. Am I visible? Yes? All fine? Just wave if I'm okay, good. All right, so then I was traveling at the United Nations in 2000, for the United Nations 2004 in the Gulf countries. And what did I have? The astonished reaction on the part of these people when they heard the news from India that our election had been won by a political party led by a woman leader of Roman Catholic background and Italian origin, who had then made way for a Sikh to be sworn in as prime minister by a Muslim president in a country that was 80% Hindu. And that kind of astonishment, I smiled at them and said, we're not trying to do this to impress the world. This is the way we are. This is simply the way we are. It's India being itself. And that kind of thing deeply attracts and impresses people. They say, what a country. You know, very few countries in the world, even in the so-called developed world, would be able to showcase such diversity and such inclusion. And this is why it seems to me that there's simply no question that all of those qualities made India attractive. Today, in the post-COVID world, one of the things that we have to face, however, is the way in which the judge how we react. Not that every country has reacted much better. I mean, certainly those countries that have been very quick, not just to blame the government of China, which deserves some blame, but also to blame the Chinese people, calling it the Chinese virus, discriminating against Chinese individuals or people of East Asian features in restaurants and supermarkets in some Western countries. That, I must say, was utterly shameful. And that's continuing. A certain racism is coming up. But when we do the same in many parts of India to our own Northeastern brothers and sisters who find themselves facing discrimination, who find themselves being called coronavirus, go away, and so on, because they happen to look a little more East Asian than South Asian, that is something that I find shameful, and that shows Indians practicing the very kind of racism that we would decry if it were applied to us in foreign lands. So that, I think, is not going to do our soft power image very much good. Equally, the irresponsible behavior of the Tablighi Jamaat in having a large mass gathering when there was supposed to be a lockdown definitely contributed to some of the spread. But the overreaction by a number of bigoted groups have gone out of their way to demonize one community in India, the Muslim community, as somehow being carriers of the virus and single-handedly responsible for spreading it. That has absolutely been vile. And what is worse, it has provoked a backlash in foreign countries. So many of you may be aware that on social media, the many Arab accounts, some from very prominent citizens in those countries, some from ordinary people in those countries, have come up with that the Islamophobia that they have seen coming out of prominent figures in India and prominent officials in India has created anger in their society, and they're wondering whether they should actually show India the kind of affection and respect they've hitherto done. Now, the irony, of course, is that the real India, as it were, is the India where people live side by side and in mutual cooperation, not the India of the bigots and the hate mongers. But unfortunately, the bigots make enough noise to be noticed abroad, and that is what changes the perception of India. And when you think, for example, in the Gulf countries, not only are they a vital source of India's energy security, they're not only a vital source of India's potential investment from those parts of the world, but they are absolutely indispensable home to some 7 million Indian workers who are working in those countries and sending remittances back to India. Remittances that kept us afloat during the global recession, remittances coming in at a very generous level to our own country and our economy, even now during the tough times. And those remittances depend on the continued extension of hospitality by Arab countries to these workers. Now, if those workers are tarnished by the bigotry, racism, unpleasantness, and toxins unleashed by a few in our country, that will damage not only India's soft power, but even India's vital national interests in that part of the world. So that's an example of the way in which I'm sorry to say that some aspects of soft power are being neglected by some of those who are speaking in this way. I often decry the virus of communalism in our country as being as bad in many ways as the virus of this particular nasty illness, COVID-19. And when you look at the globe, we're facing a very difficult time. Clearly, there's going to be a major economic downturn. It's going to be one of the worst recessions since the Great Depression. There's going to be possibly a collapse of global growth to zero or below. Unemployment is going to go up to record levels. Already job losses have been happening around the world, especially affecting the informal sector. In India, we're seeing that in very many desperate ways. Poverty, hunger, and homelessness are all increasing in our country. And there is going to be a major need, it seems to me, for economic rescue. How we treat the poorest and most vulnerable of our people will also have an impact on our soft power. The images and stories of the migrant workers trudging hundreds of kilometers back home because no one would take care of them, no one would give them shelter or food, and the government had not thought fit to plan in advance before announcing the lockdown and before shutting down trains and buses about the fact that we have so many migrant workers. All of that has damaged India's image very and that's again something that hurts India's soft power, because you're looking at something which shows that we don't treat our own people well. That's been the second major setback. The third setback has been in the question of our numbers, the increasing skepticism of many countries about whether the figures coming out of India for the pandemics, how many people have been infected, and of those, how many have passed away. The skepticism is hurting us, because soft power also requires a country to be open and transparent, as we're hitherto known to be. Whereas China's numbers were never trusted, India's usually were trusted. But ever since last year, when there was a controversy about some of our GDP figures and other steps being taken by the government to massage the official figures, the resignation of the two of the chief statisticians of India because of their refusal to take political orders from the government about the statistics they had collected. All of those things certainly have also affected our credibility and therefore our soft power. But some things perhaps may yet change for the better. I think that one of the things that I wrote about, for example, and that has been going noticed around the world, is how some of our cultural behaviors have seemed appropriate for a world of coronavirus. The namaste instead of the handshake, or even instead of Prime Minister Modi's bare hugs of unwary world leaders, the namaste has certainly been seen as a very good symbol of Indian respect for people, and at the same time, a polite way of maintaining social distance. That's something which I think gains positive, something on the positive side for India's image. India's voice for international cooperation, continued support for getting together with countries, the government's decision to give assistance to many countries, poorer countries than ours, including sending them personal protective equipment, which I'm sorry to say is still in shortage in our country. But that has enhanced our soft power with those countries that have benefited from our resources. And indeed, where many countries could use our help, if we provide it, that's bound to be of some use, including in some cases, when we have licked or broken the back of our problem and the worst is over, we might even be prepared to send some of our doctors, because we have very good doctors with relevant experience who can go out and help people. And that too will, it seems to me, contribute to our positive image in those countries. Finally, one thing that I hope we can really do better is handle our environment better. We have seen from the slowdown in economic activity how much improvement there is in the air around us. I know in Trivandrum we have good air. Most of the time we take it for granted. I'm currently locked down in Delhi, where I'm seeing nothing but, normally seeing nothing but smoke in the air, coughing and spluttering, an air quality index in above 300 range, barely able to see the clear sun or any sky. And today it's a completely different Delhi. It's a Delhi that reminds me of my student days here nearly half a century ago, when the sky is blue and you can see it. There are wispy white clouds going by and the air is completely. I used to go around with a portable air purifier around my neck just to be able to breathe some clean air. I don't need to do that in the present day Delhi. And all of this to me suggests that we are looking at a potential for us to recalibrate our relationship with the environment, and that too will contribute to a more positive image of our country in the world. Finally, many investors are leaving China. They're looking for new countries to go to. The Japanese have given an incentive to businesses to pull out of China and relocate to Japan, but a smaller incentive to those who are not able to come to Japan for economic reasons, but can relocate to third countries. Well, India could be such a third country, but only if we are seen as socially cohesive, culturally attractive, with harmony and peace in our society, keeping good relations amongst all our people, not demonizing or marginalizing a particular religious community. Only such an India can attract the resources, the talents, and the investments that could transform us in the post-COVID world. So I'm hoping that people close to positions of authority and influence will see the error of their ways, and that they will approach the country's needs with a larger heart and the right spirit in order to enhance our soft power. Thank you, Praveen. I can take a couple of questions and then I'll have to leave you.
Thank you very much, sir. We are really proud, so being a company with its development center in Trivandrum, in your constituency, we are really proud to host you for this masterclass. So the first question, maybe from my side, when I was listening to you, you said the hunger, joblessness, poverty, everything is increasing and going on to the peak. So we, being an organization, guiding, mentoring, and grooming students and professionals to get the right jobs where they find real meaning in life, currently we see the supply and demand is really not in balance. So the supply of human resource will be more and the demand of jobs will be coming less. So what the students and youth should keep in mind when they are trying to get the right job where they feel a meaning in life?
Well, this is something that many of you have heard me say this, so you're going to get tired of hearing it again like a broken record. The honest truth is we need to transform the way we educate our children to prepare themselves for the world of employment. Exact question that you're asking. Because to my mind, too much of our education is centered towards examinations, filling our kids' heads with facts, figures, numbers, and they're then supposed to regurgitate on the exam paper in the exam hall. That gives them a well-filled mind. That's no use in the 21st century, because in the real world, even people who haven't learned all these facts can get them with 2 clicks of a mouse on Google. So what you need is not a well-filled mind, you need a well-formed mind. It seems to me that what you need with a well-formed mind is people who can think out of the box, who can think creatively, who can be solution-oriented, who, when they're presented a problem, will have the tools to analyze that problem, even if the facts are unfamiliar and they didn't hear them in the yesterday's lecture or study them out of a textbook, but they would then be able to digest and diagnose these facts and come up with constructive approaches to them. That's the kind of thinking that the world needs in the 21st century. And I fear we're not preparing our children enough for it. So I've been hammering away at this message since I was a minister in the Human Resource Development Ministry, and I've been continuing to say it while I'm in opposition. So I think it's extremely important that we absolutely need to have a new approach to education. People have to remember there's an Oxford Martin School study that says that in 2030, 30% of the jobs in the world will be jobs that don't exist today. So you can't cram up facts and figures for a job that you don't know what it's going to be because the job doesn't exist. Somebody's going to come up with new inventions, new processes, new technologies, new ideas, and those will be the jobs for which they're hiring. So I always tell teachers, don't teach children what to think, teach children how to think. And if you can teach them how to think, then they will be in a very good position to be eligible for these new jobs, the nature of which we don't even fully know ourselves yet.
Thank you, sir. Lifology firmly believe the pattern break which is happening now because of this pandemic may be making some people think in a different manner, because in a normal course of life, people may not be breaking the patterns. This pandemic may be a reason and catalyst. Let's see. So we have a question from Hemali. What's your thinking about how economy can be revived from this potential recession?
Well, there's a great deal that absolutely needs to be done on that. Before I answer that, let me just briefly answer another question that has come to me, which says, is the phrase, Isa Ali, is a phrase distancing rightly used? And I want to say that happens to be the subject of my latest column in the Week magazine, where I've actually written precisely this, that we have to stop talking about social distancing and instead talk about physical distancing, because social distancing is a bad thing. We need to be a really affectionate and, shall we say, social, socially cohesive group of people. What I think we need, on the other hand, is to keep physically apart. So that's the message. Now, to answer the question that upon asked about, I'm sorry, Hemali, sorry.
Hemali.
Asked about what we need to do. I would say, first of all, we have to understand that the economic recovery will take time. The government needs to appoint a task force, not just full of bureaucrats or even economists, so only two people they seem to be listening to, with the sole responsibility of focusing on the post-COVID revival. I would have a task force with representing diverse sectors of our economy. Big industry has to be there. Small industry has to be there. The micro, small, medium enterprise, MSMEs should be there. The corner shops, the kirana shops, the mom and pop businesses. Somebody has to represent the chaiwalas and the vegetable vendors. The travel and hospitality industries have taken a very bad look. No one is traveling. No one is staying in hotels, going to restaurants. Restaurants are shut. So in Kerala, which is such heavily dependent on tourism, these industries have to be given a special voice and special concessions. Food service industry, but also live events and sports leagues. We shouldn't underestimate the very major contribution made to the economy by sporting events. The cancellation of the IPL is a very major body blow to the BCCI, to world cricket, and to the Indian economy. Entertainment and leisure industries must be given a chance to say, what do you need? You know, people are talking glibly about a V-shaped recovery, but in that case, what regulations do you need to abolish? What reforms you need to bring? How can you attract some of the investment that is leaving China to India? You can only attract it to India if you make yourself attractive. You've got to make land and labor less expensive, or you won't be able to compete with China. You've got to be able to make the bureaucratic, the oppressive regulatory structure in India much simpler, so that people will be able to work without the dead hand of bureaucracy. Meanwhile, of course, I've been clamoring for the immediate resumption of agricultural activity. Some of it has started already. Some harvesting is taking place, and particularly in North India, the so-called Rabi crop, I believe, is looking good. But workers still don't have transport to get to farms in Punjab and Haryana, which need them. That needs to be done. Some of the MSMEs must be restarted so that the impact on jobs and economic disruption is minimal. There has to be resumption of, reviving the store supply lines and retail services to ensure that there's no crisis in essential goods. And then eventually we'll need to resume big activities like construction and reopening of other entities. And industries will need a special safety protocol for distancing and so on, so that people can be protected. I want to stress this is about businesses and industries, but what about ordinary people? I think ordinary people need support. The Congress Party called yesterday for the government to give 7,500 rupees to every Indian below the poverty line. About 50% of our population needs to get that money so they can just survive. They don't have money to eat and to live. We need to be able to give some protections. For example, I've suggested that the government might want to announce that they will subsidize the salaries, or up to 80% of the salaries of people, provided employers don't fire those people. So if they're kept on the books and the employer pays 20% of the salary because he can't afford to pay more, he has no income coming in and no revenue, then the government will guarantee to support the other 80%. That could be a way of preventing unemployment and also keeping the heads of these business people above water. Contributing to pensions, waiving, not just having a moratorium that you don't have to pay your EMI for 3 months. At the end of 3 months, if you still have to pay the EMI and the interest on it, you will not be able to afford it because you will have to make up for all the months of economic inactivity. So instead of just a moratorium, you need to see interest waivers. You need to say that the payments can be staggered thereafter and that you will not have to pay interest for these 3 months. That kind of concession only the government can do. But they have to put themselves in the place of what ordinary people need. The people who are living close to the margin must not be forced to sink below the poverty line by irresponsible government policy making. And I want to conclude today with a word to Himali and to the other listeners, that if the challenge of shutting down India was huge, the challenge of reopening India will be bigger. We'll have to see the next 10 days or so of data coming out of all the states before the government can responsibly decide whether to end the lockdown on May 3rd or not. But India cannot and must not remain shut down for longer than what it takes, because we really have to revive the economy as well. People have to live. Lives matter, livelihoods matter, and the government must find the right balance to ensure both. I think Kerala had a very, very good proposal coming out of the expert group the government appointed. I hope the central government is inspired by that kind of model. Divide the country into areas which need some sort of continuing lockdown, but spare the rest so economic activity can resume, and maybe we'll get back on our feet and see some real recovery again. But thank you.
Sir, just a minute, sir. It's like, as a last one, so Lifology is today launching an initiative called Career Panda. And it is a free career guidance service over call and through our platform for the children of every health workers in the country. Because when the parents are busy in helping and saving India, the children are not really getting that support in career service. So it would be great if you can just through a wish digitally launch the Career Panda service for us, which is a free service for every children of every health workers in India, which we will be announcing through our Facebook now.
So what do I do? Just click?
You can just say as a wish, sir, considering this a Zoom conference.
Well, I'm very, very proud to launch this, and I wish you all success and good luck to everybody at Lifology and associated with Lifology. Good luck.
Yeah, its name is Career Panda, sir. Career Panda. Career Panda.
All the best to the Career Panda. Take care. Good luck.
Thank you very much, sir. There are a lot of questions. We will be sharing the questions with you as a text. On the go, you can, when you get time, tweet the answers or write in your Facebook for the questions. We will be sharing the rest of the questions to you. Thank you very much for joining us today evening. And thank you very much, everybody who joined us for today. So considering sir's limited time, we are not able to take up all the questions, but we will be sharing the questions with sir, and he will be responding most probably to you digitally. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.